Can you see my screen? Okay, thanks. Right. Okay, so the first question is why we need databases? Why not other ways, right? Now, before databases comes in, people used to collect, data in various ways. We can use a pen and a book to keep records. Now, for example, telephone books, early days, we used to manage with a simple book. We will write down all our contact details, addresses, and so on. Now, what are the issues of traditional way of collecting data? අපි පරණ ක්‍රමයට මේ විදිහට එකතු කරගන්න එකේ තිබ්බ ප්‍රශ්න මොනවද? එහෙම නැත්නම් දැන් අපි ඉලෙක්ට්‍රොනික උපකරණවලදී phone numbers තියාගන්න ක්‍රමයට වඩා පැරණි ක්‍රමයේ මොනවද තිබුණු issues? So what are the issues we had the traditional way of data collections? Okay, Dulina said it's security issues. What else? You can type. Okay, time is wasting, yes. For example, let's say අපි කාගේ හරි යාළුවෙක්ගේ නමක් හොයන්න ගියොත් පිටු පෙරලන්න වෙනවනේ. So searching information is a bit difficult. Searching not easy. Difficult to get information. Imashi said it's difficult. Yes, true. Right? So traditional way, searching is difficult. Even maintaining difficult. You know, said maintaining is difficult. Yes, definitely. Sometimes you don't have enough time. There's no order. If you want to change the data, then there'll be a problem. Update. Can you give phone number? So it will be difficult. Imashi then said more manpower is needed. It's true. If it is a like school, for example, we need like additional manpower to maintain like manual. So database simply is a collection of data and information which is organized. So that means you can easily access, manage, and update. So the database term is used for that. Basically, simply you can say it's a collection of organized data. But there are many issues if you're going to have it in manual, like traditional format, right? So you have mentioned like some of them, I'm not going to go into detail. So because of that, nowadays, we will have what we call digital databases. Digitally means we are going to keep electronic format, like we use computers or mobiles to keep our data. And it's easy. We are using a special name for those software. Those software is known as database management systems, in short DBMS. Right? So there are issues with our manual collecting data. So now we have electronic databases, meaning we have software to do this. We can use a computer or a mobile to store data. Some examples, the software example, MS Access, Microsoft Access is the one we have discussed in the class, which is called commercial, meaning you have to pay for it. And it's proprietary, means we really don't know what is inside because the company, Microsoft, will not reveal what is inside, which we call proprietary. Then there are other examples which we are not going to discuss in detail, but if you're doing A-levels, you will get to know this. MySQL and MariaDB, they both free and open source database management systems. Then there are like Oracle and Base, another two. There are many others as well. Okay, now what are the advantages you might get by using software like this, like Access? Now you are mentioning like some of the issues we had, isn't it? පුතාලා කලින් කිව්වා මොනවද තිබුණු ප්‍රශ්න කියලා. Then electronic databases, what are the advantages you will get? If you're using a database management system software, in short, we call DBMS. Can you mention few? Okay, Imashi said save time. Yes, of course. It's efficient. Yes. It's easy to find data. Yes. You know that even when you want to find someone's telephone number, when you type first letter, you will get the rest, isn't it? If you type two letters, then you will get all the names with start in those two letters. Dulaj says easy to create data. Yes, tables you can easily create. Image again said you can easily update data. Yes, updating or changing is easy. Malindu said it's more credible. You can basically say insertion, deletion, update, insert, delete, update. All these three is very easy. Taroshi said more accurate. Yes, of course. When you have electronic format, we can minimize human errors. Now, for example, when you enter in data, if you're using a traditional method, then we might run into problems. Malindu said less manpower. Yes. Now, early days, we have like several, people working on a school office. We can reduce to only one person to do everything. Sometimes you might see nowadays we have shops where only one person is there managing everything. This is because of the technology. Yes, good. So the advantages, as we have discussed, there are many. It's easy to create tables. Now, table is the basic way to structure the data, and more data can be stored. Now, for example, in a pen drive, you can have books in a library, and it's faster. If you want to get some results, data, you can do this within fraction of a second. Now, for example, when you search something in a Google, you will get millions of records within a fraction of a second. It's because of these technologies. If you want to make a copies, it's very easy. You can simply copy paste. Security is high, meaning once we have an electronic database system, we can keep track who will access the data, who changed the data, everything is recorded. So in electronic world, it's very difficult someone to cheat the system because everything is recorded. Data searching, data sorting, it's easy, simple commands. Data filtering can be done easily. Now, once you collect the data, we can easily get a list of students who live in Nicavarity, for example. Very easy. Data can be easily shared. Now, it's not copied. Sometimes the same data set you can share with somebody else, right? Without copy pasting. And the same database can be used by many different programs, which we call data is independent. Right, Imashi said, what do you mean by sorting? Right. Now, sorting means sometimes, let's say the names, we need alphabetically. We need to sort alphabetically so that all our telephone book, all our names are in alphabetical order. That's sorting. Or else, let's say we have a class of students, we need to sort in a descending order, right, with their average marks. So we can sort based on the average marks in a descending order. So sorting means you are arranging, usually alphabetically order, minimum to maximum, maximum to minimum, likewise. I hope you got the point. Right. Okay, so now we have discussed, there are some advantages of electronic databases, and for that we are using special software. The name for this special software is database management systems, or in short, we said DBMS. Right. Now let's move on. Now, when you enter data, usually we have to specify what we call a type. Type means what you can enter. Now, for example, let's say we want to store person's age. Age is a number. So similarly, whenever you want to insert data, you can define what we call data types. There are many data types available, but most common ones are, first one, text. When we say text, text can consist of letters, numbers, and special character. Now, when you take person national identity card number, it's a text. Why? Usually you will have numbers as well as sometimes some English characters at the end. It's not a number, it's actually a text. If you take a phone number, phone numbers is also text, not a number. You start with 0777, the first zero is important. So if you take a telephone number, for example, we call it as a text. Now the second one is number. Numbers mean the numbers can be used for calculations, right? So it could be integer, meaning like whole numbers, or it could be real with some decimal places. Third one called currency. Now currency means, currency also number, but precision is very important. When we use to store data about currency, like your money matters, right? We are using a separate data type for that, which is called currency. So usually the data can be represented together with their units, like $10, 1,500 rupees, and so on. Then whenever we want to store date and times, it could be a time, it could be a date, or it could be both. We are using date type, date/time. That's the data type we call, right? So as I told you earlier, it could be a date, it could be a time, it could be both. We are using the data type called date/time. For example, here in my, it says September 30, 2017, 6 p.m. So it has both date and time. We sometimes call timestamp. Final one is called Boolean, which is you have only two different values, true, false. So Boolean is a special data type. Whenever you want to represent only two distinct values, then we can use Boolean. Okay, those who have understood so far, can you please raise your hands? If you have any doubts, please ask whatever I have discussed so far. But be frank, I mean, you don't have to raise your hands. All the others can raise their hands, but you can without raising the hand if you have any doubts. You can ask in Sinhala as well. පොතලට මොන හරි ප්‍රශ්න තියෙනවා නම් මේ දක්වා තේරුම් නැති මොන හරි දෙයක් තියෙනවා නම් අහන්න ඕන. අපි මේ දෙවෙනි පාර්ට කරන්නේ. ඔව් පොතේ? Right, good. Okay, you can lower the hands. Thanks. Right. Now, these data types usually we need when you want to create databases. I will explain in another lesson, like the software part of it. In the exam, you don't need the software part. Only knowing data types is enough. Now, the second thing, we need some properties. Now, what do you mean by properties? Now, for example, if you take a person name, right, we have some limitation. We have to define size of the data. How many characters we could keep. Now, for example, you can say, okay, size 80 means a person's name, we can allow only up to 80 characters. So those are known as some field properties. Size is one of the property. Let me ask you a question. Now, if I want to store a phone number, what should be the size of the data? You can type the answer in the chat. If you want to store a telephone number, what should be the size of the data? Yes, Tarushi? Should be 10 characters, right? Why 10 characters? We know to represent a phone number, we have to keep 10 digits. Okay, another property is like something like format. Sometimes we kind of say, okay, when you type your name, type in uppercase letters. So that's a property. So we can force whenever somebody enters data, we can say, okay, enter data in uppercase letters. Another one is number. So when you want to represent a number, you can specify whether number is integer value or with a decimal part of it. When you use a date format, there are many ways you can represent date format. So you can specify which format you want. Similar goes with time. Time also can be represented using 12-hour clock or 20-hour, 24-hour clock. It's up to you. Whoever is going to use or going to design the database. Right. These are some examples like for the data type. Now, when you usually get admission number, depend on what you're going to have. Usually you can have number or a text. For me, I prefer text because admission number is not we normally not use it as a calculation. Remember, we discussed the idea. So in my case, I more prefer to get the admission number as a text. But I have seen like sometimes people also represent it as a number. Name, definitely it should be a text. Then gender, whether you are a male or female. So we can use a text like male and female, you can type it, or you can use Boolean. The problem with the text is you have to, the size of the space you need to represent as male and female, you need more space. Boolean, usually you need a 1 bit, either 0 and 1, right? So that is one example. So either you can take it as a Boolean value or you can simply take it as a text value. Next one, date of birth. Definitely it should be date and time. Address, definitely text. Right. Now, can you quickly type the answers for this exercise in the chat? Everybody, I want everyone to answer this. What are the suitable data types for these 6 fields? Okay, I got the answer from Imashi. Good. Correct. How about the others? Yes, Yenul also send me, Dulaj also send me the answer. Yenul, good. Cynthia send me the answers. Cynthia, second one should be date time. Let's discuss the answers. Right, now the first one, admission number. So usually when we have admission number, uh, it's normally we don't use it for counting, but you can use number. So, but for my case, I more prefer to say it's a text. But if you type number, I'm not going to, put any wrong there. Date of admission, definitely it should be date and time. I already told you it should be date and time. You normally use slash for that. Subject code, again a code, it's not really a number. So we can use text. Then ISBN is another special number. Usually we have 12, 16 characters, but then again, it's not really a number. So I'm going to prefer to use text. Then department name, definitely it should be a text, no argument about this. Then finally, number of passengers should be number, because you can count, right? Okay, so here are my answers for this. But some of the places, instead of text, you can also use number. I told you this early. But for me, if I'm the one who's going to decide it, I'm instead of using a number, I will put text. Whenever we are not performing any calculation, better we go for text. Okay, right, good. Majority of you have actually sent me the answers. Good, that those who have tried. Those who have not tried, I at least expect you to send me the answers, right? At least next time. Right, now that we have discussed, right, data types, now we can go for to discuss what we call relational database system. Now, there are many data models, database models, we say. And in O levels, we normally talk about only one database model, which we call relational database system. So it's a simple idea. Relational means your data is actually related to each other. A relation database consists of a collection of related tables. Simply, the database means it's a collection of tables. When you say a relational database, it means a collection of related tables. Right. Now let's look at one example, a database which consists of student details, their subject details, and their marks for these different subjects. So these are in different tables. So here we have, student details in one table, subject details in another table, marks in another table. So basically there are three and they are connected to each other. I will explain. So this is a relational database. Now, when you take a table, usually we have records, right? Horizontal one known as records and vertical ones, they are the columns or fields, right? And then for each table, we have to have a unique attribute, which we are going to take as a primary key. Primary key means you have a unique value in this column, right? Unique values. Others are not, primary keys or unique. Similarly, if you look at subject table, you have subject code and subject name. And this is the one which consists of unique values. So we are going to say subject code. Last one, you have to keep track of all the marks. So you can have admission number, subject code, and marks, right? Which we can actually cater both, right? So let's say this is a mark table and this is a student table. So you can see this admission number is related, right, to the person. Right. Okay. So that's about the relational database. So we are going to need to learn whenever we give a data set, we should be able to identify these unique values, which we call the primary keys, and we should underline them. And then with this, you should be able to establish the connections. Right. Okay. Now let's look at some examples. When you're creating tables, you can get a lot of, easy when you're creating tables. Right. Now I'm going to look at most important words we normally use in databases and make a note of this. Write your own words. The first one we are going to discuss primary key. So you have seen earlier, primary keys are underlined. So the primary key for the student table is admission number. Primary key for subject table is subject code. Primary key for marks is both admission number and subject code. Right. Now let's look at what a primary key is. Primary key means a column or set of columns. Okay, that means it could be the one column or it could be multiple columns, right? If you look at my example, primary key, we have one field, one attribute. Here also we have one attribute. But here we have two attributes. So combining the two will give us the primary key for this table. So that's the idea of what we have seen earlier when we have, the primary key constraints. Right, a column or set of columns which can be used to uniquely identify each of the records in a table is known as a primary key. There should be only one primary key for a table. So you have to have only one. You cannot have multiple. Now, for example, if you take a person's national identity card number is a unique attribute. Similarly, driving license number is also unique. But remember, when you want to specify primary key, you have to take one of these right? Right. So when you say a primary key, usually you can't have duplicate values. Same value you cannot appear, right? So no duplication values, no empty cells. Okay, understood the idea? So we can say, okay, the primary key for the first table, student table, is admission number. Primary key for the subject table is a subject code. Primary key for marks table, admission number, and subject code. This is how you should interpret. Right. If you have understood up to this point, can you please raise your hands? And if you do not understand, yes. Admission number in the marks table, is it a foreign key? Yes. How do you check? Is this common? Yes, it's common. And is it connect to the primary key of the other table? Yes, both conditions are satisfied. So the first one is, first foreign key is admission number. Second one, what is the second one? Anyone? Yes. Look at subject code. Is it a foreign key? Yes, it's common to these two tables and it is connected to the primary key of this table. So this is a foreign key. So subject code is also foreign key. So there are no foreign keys in the student table. There are no foreign keys in student table. There are no foreign keys in subject table, but there are two foreign keys in marks table. So admission number connects the admission number in student table. Subject code connects the subject code in the subject table. Right, now we have finished foreign keys, composite keys, right, and primary keys. If you have understood up to this far, can you please raise your hands? And if you do not understand, don't raise your hands. Any one of you want me to repeat this, the explanation? Yona, Dahimi? Oh, there's a question whether the primary key could be a foreign key. Yes, it could be. Ema wenna puluwan puthi. For the condition එක satisfy වෙනවා නම් හරි. මොනවාද condition? Is it common? ඒතර ඒ primary key එක common ව තියෙන්න පුළුවන්. Right? ඊට පස්සේ is it connected to the other tables primary key? මේ primary key එකෙන් නම් අර primary key එකට තියෙනවා නම් combination එක. Yes, then you can have a in this particular case we can use admission number or a subject code. Right, now I think we have the theory basis we have discussed. So let me go back again to discuss in detail. Right, primary key, composite key, foreign key we have done. Right, now the next thing that we need to discuss is type of relationship. Now, there are three types of relationships are available. They are one-to-one relationship. When you say one-to-one, then there should be like records connecting from one table to the other one. So we will have one-to-one relationship. That means if you have two tables, if you get one record in the first table, it should connect to a one table in the second table. Similarly, if you take a record in the second table, it should connect exactly one. So one record will connect to the other table, and other table's one record connects to the previous one. I choose like husband and wife. Let's say we have legally married husbands in one table, the wives are in other table. We know that if you take one husband, you can have one wife, assuming that you can have only one wife, right? Legally. And similarly, if you take one wife from the table, then you can have maximum one husband. So it's one-to-one. Similarly, if you take principal and a school, if you take principal, he or she can work only for one school. And if you take one school, you can have only one principal, which means one-to-one relationship. Then the second one is one-to-many. So one-to-many means you take one record, right? And then you should, put into many. That means you take one record, should connect to many records in the other table. But if you take one record in that, should connect to only one from the other table. So this is called one-to-many. When you say mothers and children, if you put in two tables, if you take mother, one record can have multiple childs. But if you take a child, you will only have one mother, isn't it? Should be one-to-many. Similarly, many-to-many, many teachers can teach to students and student can learn from many teachers. So we can say it's a many-to-many relationship. Right, that we have done this one as well. Okay, now can you quickly send me the answers for these 6? Right? What kind of a relationships you can identify from the following? If you take doctor and patient, is it one-to-one or one-to-many or many-to-many?
Many to
Right. If you take doctor and patient, right, let me take, we have doctor and then patient, right? Take one doctor. One doctor can, look for many, right? Right? And take one patient, looks the other way around. Right? Other side, if you take one, there'll be many. So doctor and patient, then the relationship will be, yes, many to many. Okay, what is the relationship between the doctor and hospital? Doctor and hospital. right? Doctor hospital. Take one doctor, how many hospital he or she can work? Usually only one. So this side.
One to many.
Take a hospital, how many doctors are there?
Many doctors.
Yes, many. So if you take a doctor, he can work for one hospital. If you take one hospital, then you can have, many doctors. So this is one to many. Okay, what is the relationship between the principal and a school? Take one principal. Yes, how many schools?
One to one.
It's one. If you take a school, then one principal. So this could be one to one. Okay, next three things can you put in the chat? I'm going to numbers as 4, 5, 6, 4, 5, and 6. Yes. Give me whether they are one to one, one to many, or many to many. Right. Okay, take one teacher. How many school a teacher can work for? Usually one, isn't it? So this side we have one. Take one school. How many teachers? Many. So we can say this is also one to many. Take one student. How many school he or she can attend to? Yes, for a student, it will be school.
One to many.
If you take a school, you have many students. So similarly here also, we can have one to many. Then teacher student.
Many to many.
Take one teacher, many students. Take one student, many teachers. So many to many. Good. Right. Okay, let's move to the next one. Now, there are something called forms in database management systems. Now, forms are used to enter data or visualize it. So for both, we can use forms. Then you have queries. Queries means whatever you need, you have to describe using techniques here. Right. So that's a query. Query means you are going to request some particular information, not everything, right? Or sometimes you connect with multiple places, right? So if you look at this example, what you see? We have marks table and student table. You see here admission number is connected to the student table, right? So like this. Right. Now, finally, we can discuss about the reports. We can usually use a printed copy of the financial statements. Right. Now that we have discussed theory part, now you should be able to send me the correct answers, right? Okay then. හරි පුතේ එහෙනම් අපි අදට නතර කරමු.